get started. All right, everyone, welcome once again to another exciting episode of the Belle by Choice Facebook and YouTube live chat, which, as you all know, we hold it every Thursday by 5 p.m. And the Belle by Choice live chat is a place where it's a live chat where we invite sexual and reproductive health experts, and we discuss on issues that concern women, ranging from contraception, different topics that has to do with their sexual and reproductive health. Okay, before we move further, today's topic is we're going to be talking on the myths and misconceptions about contraception, and this is the part 2. Last week we took the part 1. We had an amazing speaker that came to really break down some of these myths and misconceptions that a lot of women out there have about contraception. And this week we'll be taking the part 2 of this same wonderful topic. And before we move further, we have some amazing partners that have been with us. Without them, the Belle by Choice, I don't think Belle by Choice initiative would get to this stage that we are in. So we want to say thank you to AWDF, Global Fund for Women, Women First Digital, Women for Women Alliance, DKT International, Cross River State Ministry of Health, UNFPA, and also Cross River State Primary Healthcare Development Agencies. Okay, as you know that today's topic is myths and misconceptions about contraception. We have another superb speaker right here in our midst. We have Dr. Tobiloba Kolawole. Dr. Tobiloba, thank you so very much for accepting to join us on this call. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So Dr. Tobiloba Kolawole is a senior scientist with the UK Health Security Agency. She's responsible for England's HIV and STI data surveillance and analysis. She also collaborates with key stakeholders to improve health outcomes and eliminate new HIV cases in England by 2030. Now, Dr. Toby has over 5 years of work experience spanning across the clinical and public health sectors. She studied medicine and surgery at the University of Ibadan College of Medicine and also obtained a master's degree in global health and policy from Queen Mary University, London. Thank you so very much for joining us, Doctor. All right, without further ado, we'll just go straight into the questions. Like I said earlier, last week we treated some of the questions that concerned we treated some of the questions on the myths about contraceptives, and this week we got more questions based from the feedback we got from some of our women. They've been asking questions because a lot of women out there. There was a time we went out and we did like a survey, went out and talked to some of these women, and we really got to find out a lot of things. A lot of women out there, a lot of Nigerian women out there don't use contraceptions because of these myths that's grown with us, and they believe it as fact. So that's why we really want to dissect these myths today, so our women out there, our young girls, can make informed decisions about their sexual health. So today's question is, can contraceptive pills prevent STIs, sexually transmitted infections?
Okay, thank you once again, Helen, and thank you to the team for inviting me and putting this session together. So I know that there's already been a part 1 and most of these things would have been discussed, but I think that before I proceed to answer these questions, I'm just going to give a brief overview of what contraceptives are. Okay. And already said, contraceptive use in Nigeria, in Africa as a whole, and then in Nigeria is very poor with very low uptake. And I think the major reasons why many surveys have been done, a lot of research has gone into it, and a lot of money has been pumped into the contraceptive sector in Nigeria. But I think the traditional beliefs and moral beliefs as well, there's just so much going on in the country that doesn't exactly help or favor the industry, quote
Yeah.
and unquote.
Yeah.
So, like you've said, contraceptives are birth control pills, and they are used to prevent unintended pregnancies. They can be used for other reasons as well, but for the purpose of this discussion, it's mainly focused on preventing unintended pregnancies. And there are many contraceptive options. It's not just pills, it's not just medications. You have devices that can be put into your body. There are surgical methods as well, and there are also traditional methods that don't even require pills or devices or anything. But as I proceed, I will talk about the various methods and advantages, disadvantages very briefly. So we do have two different types largely. We have the traditional methods and then we have the modern methods. For the traditional methods, what we have would be withdrawal methods. I'm sure many people are familiar with this. Yes, and we all know that this doesn't work. It has a very, very high possibility of failing. After this, we have what we call lactation, the lactation method, quote and unquote. So this is just breastfeeding, during breastfeeding in layman's terms. So this is when it's mainly focused on pregnant women or post-pregnancy. So when you're lactating, when you're breastfeeding, usually you are not likely to get pregnant. Not likely. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't get pregnant. It's a percentage thing. Some people can, some people would not. After this, you have what we call the rhythm method. So this is when you monitor your ovulation, when you monitor your cycle. Now everybody has a period calendar on their phone. You know when your menstruation is coming, you know when you're ovulating, you know when so many things are happening in your body, right? So if you go by this approach, you would know when you're ovulating. Okay, obviously, I'm ovulating this period. If I engage in sexual intercourse during this period, I'm most likely to get pregnant. If I engage in sexual intercourse during this other time of my cycle, I probably won't get pregnant. This can be effective if your cycle is consistent and regular, but many people do not have regular cycles. So this is also not cool. Yeah, it's called fail. It can fail.
I actually, have the idea that it does not work at all. I wasn't about to ask if this works, because I've heard of people say they counted the whole thing and then they had sex with other people, then they still got pregnant.
Yes. So once again, we all know our bodies are very, very different. So what works for A most likely wouldn't work for B. But in addition to that, our cycles are also very different. So people have 28-day cycle, people have 34 days, people have 40-day cycles. It's it's a long range, a very wide range. And because the cycles are different, over every month it changes. So your calculations can be wrong. And because your calculations can be wrong, it is very likely to fail.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are just the nuances with that method. So going on to what we are more familiar with, the modern methods, what everybody talks about, like the pills, the oral contraceptive pills, the implants. So there are three major groups in the modern methods. We have the pills, the medications. So you have the oral contraceptive pills that you can take. Under that, there are popular ones that we are aware of, something like Postinor. Postinor is an emergency contraceptive pill. It should not be used regularly. That is not an approved method of contraception. It is used for emergency cases.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Side effects, the Postinor.
Yes, Postinor does have side effects because it wasn't developed to be used every time and after every sexual encounter. I think there's a question that has already been asked about if you can use emergency contraceptive pills regularly. No, you cannot. So something like Postinor should not be used regularly. It will definitely have side effects. It should be used in severe cases, such as rape, for example. Emergency cases is when we advise that you use Postinor. But for regular contraception, you should not use Postinor. There are other OCP pills. So after the pills, you have implants, devices. You can have, these days with modern technology, you can have what we call implants just under your skin. You could have it on your arm, in your thigh. Nobody even knows it's there, and it can last for at least a year to 2 years or 5 years, depending on which one you get. So it's very convenient. It's not painful at all. It has less side effects compared to the pills. And most people are more likely to have or to get that type of contraception. I mean, obviously, before you get any contraception, you should see your gynecologist. You should go to the hospital, and you should discuss your cycle and also what stage you are in terms of your reproductive life. So are you married? Are you hoping to get pregnant anytime soon? Or all those things need to be discussed before you pick any contraception or any choice that you make, because it will determine which one we advise you to get. Because there's already a question about it affecting fertility and things like that. And this is why it's important that you see a doctor before you decide on which contraceptive pill or method you'd like to use, so that we can understand your personality and your uniqueness, and then advise on which one will be best for you. Okay, so by doing this, you reduce side effects, you reduce a lot of issues that come with using contraception. All right, so not to waste time any further, we also have injectables. So just like getting malaria injections, you can get an injection for a contraception, and injections can be used depending on which one you get. Under this broad groups, there are so many options that you can get. Like I said, it all depends on what stage you're at, how old you are, what do you see for yourself? Do you want to get pregnant anytime soon, or you don't? All those things determine which one you get. So your injections can last for a year. It could last for 6 months, meaning that every 6 months you need to get the injections, or every 3 months. It depends on which one you get. And there are also things you can implant into your body. So you can pass this in through the vagina, and it could also help to prevent pregnancies. And then we have the common ones, condoms, female condoms, male condoms. So those are the different types of contraceptives that we have, or contraception methods. And then the challenges with contraception, most people would have one form of issue or the other, but the most common ones we see, things like headaches, nausea. Sometimes people have mood swings. And yes, you can have mood swings with this because it's hormonal. So it's going to play with your hormones a bit. But over time, it will settle, and then everything goes back to normal. The other very common thing with contraception is that it will affect your menstrual cycle. So depending on which method you choose to use, pills are actually very good in regulating your menstrual cycle. So if you're somebody that has an irregular menstrual cycle and you get on the oral contraceptive pills, your menses will become very, very regular, meaning every month you are sure of getting it around the same time. And your cycle will most likely be less painful. It wouldn't be as heavy as it usually would be. You would bleed less, and you would have a lot less issues with your menstrual cycle with OCPs, that's oral contraceptive pills. So those are just a few nuances. Then to move on to answer the questions, or do you have any questions you just want to ask before I proceed?
Let me ask Faith. Faith is my co-host. Faith, are you still here? Is there any question you'd like to ask before she proceeds?
Doctor, you're doing so well. Thank you so much for that very perfect summary. So we would like to give you around 5 to 10 minutes to just share with us on what you have generally, and then we can throw our questions at you quickly, because you seem to have a lot you really want to share with us. And since our questions are not so much today, we would like you to use 5 minutes thereabouts to just share what you would have us know today on this live. We have like 5 questions for you. So you taking 5 minutes to share your throw insight or throw light on it would help us understand better. For example, I really got your lecture on the OCP and how it works. It's really, really insightful. So please carry on, ma'am.
Okay, no problem. Right. So we've already discussed the different types of contraceptives. We're aware of them, the traditional methods, the modern methods. We understand that with each approach or method, there are side effects, there are complications, there are advantages, and there are disadvantages. And we know that the best thing to do is to seek medical counsel before we decide which one is best for us, because our bodies are very different, and whatever we decide to pick or choose, it needs to be right for our personal body types. Then another major challenge I did not add, and I should mention because we are women, is weight gain.
Yes, ma'am.
So with oral contraceptive pills, you are most likely to gain weight. Most likely to gain.
Wow.
So these are some nuances that you definitely should talk more about these things before you proceed on whichever one you want to use, because it will have some effect on your body. But like I said, over time, these things settle and you have less issues with it. So the speaker that introduced this session talked about some challenges with contraception in Nigeria, and I will just touch briefly on that. Like I already mentioned, there's a very strong traditional and religious strongholds in Nigeria, and these things affect how people see and react to sexual and reproductive health issues, especially surrounding women. And it's unfortunate because women have to bear the bulk of either the shame or the challenges that come with these issues. So it's very important to have platforms like this where you can discuss these issues and educate people and give people some form of support, or at least let them be aware of different options that they have, so they are not just suffering in silence. So lack of awareness is a major issue with not using contraceptives. People they just don't know. All they know is the traditional, oh, we just withdraw or something like that. And we all know that it's not foolproof. It will fail. And then you end up getting pregnant. 2 is fear. Fear from what would people think? I'm not married, but I'm already having sex. How can I present at a clinic to ask for a contraceptive pill or something? People will look down on me and think I'm immoral or I'm a loose person. Well, I would say that it's better to get the pill than to have a pregnancy that you're not ready for and you're not prepared for. And that is the other benefit of going on contraception. It protects your mental health, because unintended pregnancies can result in many different things like depression, economic hardship, and we all know inflation is high everywhere. Nobody wants to get pregnant if they're not ready for it. So it's better you get the pills than for you to end up in a situation you did not prepare for. The other challenge with contraceptives will be cost, especially in a country in Africa. Cost is an issue, but like I mentioned briefly earlier, there's so much money being pumped into the contraceptive industry. So cost really isn't an issue, but people are not aware of these things. These things are actually subsidized. And for Africa anyway, these things are subsidized in Africa. So it's not as expensive as we think. It's very, very affordable, and it is possible to get one without breaking the bank. The other thing would just be ignorance. People just don't, and they don't study, they don't read, they just hear from somebody and they think that is it. So thank God that we have platforms like this and people are speaking up. There's a lot that you can know about contraception, your reproductive health, your sexual health, to protect yourself and, have a better quality of life generally. So just to touch briefly on benefits of contraception, I've mentioned a few already. Family planning is very important. It's a major benefit. So even if you're married, you should still use a contraceptive method. Another one is to prevent death from unsafe abortion. So once again, abortions are not exactly legal in Nigeria or Africa. So if you do have an unintended pregnancy and you're genuinely not ready to keep it, chances are you might engage in an unsafe abortion, and chances are you either lose your life or you come down with a severe infection that would completely destroy your ability to conceive again or to get pregnant again. So once again, it's better you just use a contraception or a contraceptive method than to go down the whole rabbit hole of an unwanted pregnancy and then trying to get rid of it in a country that doesn't exactly support getting rid of pregnancies. Contraception actually helps with a lot of things. It helps regulate your menstrual cycle. It helps make your period lighter. It reduces acne and pimples. So there are some benefits from it, So yeah, so I think that is all I have to share. So I'm just going to go in straight to answer the questions. The first one is, can contraceptive pills prevent STIs? No, contraceptive pills do not prevent STIs. However, the other contraceptive method that I talked briefly about, condoms, which we all know, it is a method, it's a form of contraception, it's a barrier method. So by barrier, we mean it covers, it protects. So condoms protect you from STIs. Other methods of contraception that are not barrier methods, like the pills, the devices that you can implant in your body, the injectables, the pull out or don't pull out, traditional withdrawal methods, all those things don't prevent if you're not using a barrier. So you must always use a barrier method, even if you're using the contraceptive pill. That's the only way to protect yourself from an STI or from something like HIV. So the next question is, can contraceptives cause an imbalance in the hormones of a woman?
Hi, doctor.
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to give a follow-up question to the question you just answered about contraceptives and STIs.
Okay.
Okay, so apart from condoms, are there any other contraceptive methods that could prevent from STIs?
No. So any contraception that is not a barrier would not prevent or protect you from an STI. So what I mean by that is it has to have some form of covering of the private parts. That is the sexual organ. It's either covering the male zone or the female zone. So we have what we call a diaphragm. We have cervical caps. We have contraceptive sponges. These things are other types of barrier forms of, or barrier methods or barrier options of contraception. It's not only condoms. Under barrier contraceptions, you have condoms, you have diaphragms, cervical caps, contraceptive sponges. All those things can protect from STIs because those are barriers, if you get what I mean. By barrier, what we mean is it must protect the fluids from mixing. So the fluid from the man, the fluid from the girl. That is the only way to protect yourself from an STI. There are other things that we call things like spermicide. There are things like that, things that you can like put into your body to kill like the sexual things that are exchanged during sexual intercourse. But all those things, they are not 100%, and they do have a lot of harmful side effects. They're very harsh on the body. So it's better to just use a barrier method, which can be a condom, a diaphragm, a cervical cap, or a contraceptive sponge.
Amazing. Yes, answer my questions and has broadened my knowledge on the types of barrier contraceptives we have. Thank you so much, doctor. Okay, so the next question says, can contraceptives cause an imbalance in the hormones of a woman or make her crazy?
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, yes, contraceptives do affect your hormones because contraceptives are hormones. What they do is to play with the hormones of a woman to manipulate it somehow. So like we all know, when you're ovulating, it means you're preparing to get pregnant if you want to get pregnant. So what a hormonal contraception, because they are not all contraceptions are not hormonal. I mean, something like condom does not affect your hormones at all, so it wouldn't have any effect on it. But any contraception that is hormonal in nature, so the pills, the injections, those things will affect your hormones. So they play with your hormones and they will cause some form of imbalance. This is what protects you from getting pregnant. However, after using it for a couple of weeks or 1 to 3 months, it will stabilize, and these things, you would have less side effects.
All right. Thank you so much, Ma, for that. Next we have, does contraceptive pills cause cancer?
Right. So, it's a no question. The answer is no, and it could also be yes. So why I would
All
say
right.
yes is that, well, let me start with no first. The good news before the bad news. So no, because it actually protects you from uterine cancer. And by uterine cancer, we mean cancer of the womb. It protects you from ovarian cancer. That's cancer of the ovaries. And it also protects you from, I think it also protects you from endometrial cancer, which is also something in the womb as well. But some studies have shown that it can, there is no cause and effect, meaning that it's not 100% if you use a contraceptive pill, you will get this cancer. No. Some research studies have shown that it could, meaning there's some percentage. At the moment, I think the highest we've gotten is about 2%, a 2% relationship, meaning it's really insignificant in the grand scheme of things. It can cause breast cancer and it can cause cervical cancer. But like I said, it's 2%, which is really
All
nothing.
right.
Yes.
Really no cause for alarm.
No
Okay.
cause for alarm.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much, doctor, for that very intelligent answer. Okay, so we'll go to our next question. Can contraceptives affect a young woman's ability to have children in the future? For example, you mentioned some ladies not wanting to use contraceptive because they would say they're not yet married, and then someone would say they are irresponsible for having sex, right? So using contraceptive now as a young lady that is not married, can it affect their future chances of having children?
Okay, so I think I touched briefly on this already. So it will not affect your chances of having children. It wouldn't. But there can be a delay. And I'll say that because, once again, hormonal contraceptive pills play with your hormones, meaning that they either mimic a cycle when, let me think of how best to explain this so everybody understands it. So in layman's terms, as a woman, you go through, let's just break it into 2 cycles. It's much more complex and complicated than this, but for the purpose of this discussion, we'll break it into 2 cycles. So one cycle is your body is getting ready to get pregnant. The other cycle is your body is pregnant and is protecting the pregnancy. So an egg has been fertilized by sperm and all of that is going on. So what a contraceptive or what a hormonal contraceptive does is to keep your body in the stage where it's getting ready to get pregnant, but it never actually gets pregnant. And what I mean by that is whenever the sperm comes close to the egg to try and fertilize it, because the body remains in that state where it's just getting ready, it's not exactly ready, it doesn't progress to being ready or to having a pregnant or to getting pregnancy or to getting pregnant or having a pregnancy or something like that. So what that means is that when you eventually get off the pill, your body will go through more cycles or more a period of time where it's still in that stage where it's just getting ready. It's just getting ready, but it's not progressing to actually being ready to host a baby. It will go through that stage for a while. So that's why I said there may be some delay. And by delay, it could just be like 3 to 6 months before your cycle now returns to normal, meaning that from getting ready, it's actually ready and then it can host a baby. So I try to explain it in as simply and as easy as I could. I hope this helps.
Yeah. So I would say in a summary of what you said now, that means a young lady trying to get married and now have children should try to stop her contraceptive or oral contraceptive 3 to 6 months before she gets married, right?
Exactly. So that's why once
Right.
again we always say you need to speak to a gynecologist.
Yeah.
Not every contraceptive pill takes this long for the cycle to go back to normal and your body to return to its normal steady state.
Excellent.
So that's why it's best to speak to somebody before you commence one.
True. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, doctor. Okay, now next question. Are there any health benefits? Okay, so you have talked about general contraceptive now, but we'd just like you to just quickly in a minute or so, just shared more benefits, health benefits now to contraceptives for young girls and women, whether sexually active or not.
Okay, so briefly, because I think I already mentioned this earlier. So yes, there are some health benefits.
Just reiterate now.
Yes, there are some health benefits. So oral contraceptive pills are not only used to protect against pregnancy, they're actually used to help women who have some medical conditions like PCOS. I don't know if you've ever run a session on PCOS, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's very common, very popular. People have it. A lot of women have it. So these pills actually help to calm down the symptoms they experience and treat it. So that is one benefit of using it. Whether or not the woman is sexually active, unfortunately, her body would respond to that treatment and it helps. A major benefit is to prevent from unwanted pregnancies if you're sexually active, and even if you're not sexually active. I mean, you don't know when you can become sexually active. Well, if you're sexually active, prevent against unwanted pregnancies. The other thing is that it can help with what we call premenstrual syndrome. So people sometimes say, well, I'm cranky, I'm moody, my period is coming, my breast is paining me, my breast is tender, my body is hot, I'm having a headache, my body's aching me, just because you're about to start your menstrual cycle or your menstrual flow. So these pills can actually help to reduce all those symptoms. So like I said, our bodies are very different. Some people have very mild symptoms during their PMS, their premenstrual symptoms. So things like headaches, nausea, very mild. Some other people actually suffer from severe migraines. They can have terrible headaches. They can have depression, like actual terrible mood swings that could result in depression. So these pills can help to minimize the effect of these issues during the premenstrual cycle. Does that help?
Yes, it does. It does so much. Thank you, Ma. So we'll be taking our last question for tonight. Last question says, if a woman or young girl has unprotected sex and ends up not getting pregnant, does she still need to use contraceptives?
Well, she does need to use contraceptives because she's having unprotected sex. Meaning she is sexually active. So even if you're lucky and you get away with it one time, remember they always say every day is for the beef, one day is for the
oven. That's true, doctor.
I mean, if you've gotten away with it once, why do you want to try tempt fate again and end up with something you didn't want in the first place? Yes, you should get a contraception. I mean, you don't have to get a pill. You can get something as basic as a condom, but please use something.
Yes. Thank you so much, doctor. So I know I said that was the last question, but just take a bonus question from me, please. I always had this question in mind to ask. When women are above 50, let's just say menopausal women, do menopausal women need contraceptives? Since obviously they are no longer fertile and stuff, do they still need contraceptives?
Well, there's no easy way to answer that question, but once again, menopausal women do use contraception, but it's not to protect against pregnancy.
Okay.
It can be for something as simple as an STI. So once again, condoms. The other thing is that some people can change to be fair, once you're above 50, we say it's advised to stop using quite a number of contraceptive pills, the hormonal ones. Once again, not all contraception is hormonal. The hormonal ones is wise to stop it, but there are some that are still safe to use if needed. Yes. But once again, you need to carry your gynae along. Yes. And once again, these things can help with managing the transition into menopause. So these hormones, again, I've said it earlier, these pills help, they play with your hormones. So menopause is also a hormonal transition. I mean, you're transitioning from one stage, one phase to another, meaning that your hormones are very imbalanced. Things are going up, things coming down. And the drastic changes in these hormonal levels are what gives us the symptoms we have, even when we're having like premenstrual syndromes, things like, oh, I'm having headache, I'm not feeling good, I'm cranky. It's because of the drastic changes. One is dropping so low, another is going so high, and our body is struggling to adapt. So it's the same thing that happens in menopause. Your body is struggling to adapt to a hormone dropping very low and another one going very, very high. So these pills can help in that transition. But once again, some are dangerous, some are safe. So please carry your gynae along in any decision that you want to make.
Thank you so much, Dr. Toby. Thank you so much. It has been very insightful. Now I know barrier contraception. I know the hormonal contraception. I just knew all of them as contraception before, but now I know the differences, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with all of us here on Belle by Choice, including all our viewers. Thank you so much. We are grateful. You can make it on our call tonight. Thank you so much, Ma.
Thank you. Thank you.
We hope to have you another time if it fits your schedule. Thank you so much, Ma.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Ma. Thank you so much, too, Ma. All right. So with that, we have come to the end of our live session today on Belle by Choice. This is the whole purpose of Belle by Choice, to ensure that women understand their sexual and reproductive rights and know how to take care of themselves sexually, ensure that they carry Belle by choice and not by chance, as we always say. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You can catch the replays on our Facebook at African Girls Empowerment Network or YouTube at the same name. Also, we have hotlines where you can reach counselors, health counselors that will speak to you. We have walk-in centers all across Akwa Ibom State where you can get help, needed help, and counseling for your sexual needs. You can speak in person or via WhatsApp or phone call to any of our experts, and they'll give you the advice and needed information that would help you on your journey. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do well to join us again next week, Thursday by 5 p.m. for another very empowering session. We are grateful for you joining us today, and we will see you next week, Thursday. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Esther.
Bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yes,
Thank you, Dr.
next week.
Toby. It was nice having you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye,
Thank
Elizabeth.
you.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
nice weekend, everyone.
You too. Thank you.